Okay, let's unpack this. We are diving deep today into source material that is, frankly, genuinely unsettling. It's strange, it's dark, and it touches on some really uncomfortable ideas.
Definitely.
We're looking at excerpts from a work by Kenneth titled Gamaliel, The Diary of a Vampire. But this isn't just a simple Gothic tale.
No, not at all. It's a fragmented document. You've got a diary, plus commentary, and then this other related narrative that paints a picture far more bizarre and, well, disturbing than you might initially expect.
Right.
What these sources seem to give us is a journey into themes of occult regression, a form of vampirism that operates on energetic and spiritual levels, not just physical.
Yeah, energetic, that's key.
And encounters with entities that feel profoundly alien and, the profound dangers inherent in the pursuit of certain kinds of hidden occult knowledge. It's all filtered through the lens of this woman's apparent descent into something horrific and then the tragic fate of the man who came to possess her story later on.
So our mission for this deep dive is really to cut through the density and the strangeness. We want to extract the most important nuggets of knowledge, the surprising insights, the truly bizarre core concepts from this material.
Get to the heart of it.
Yeah, exactly. We're here to help you understand the narrative threads, make sense of the deeply unsettling ideas presented, and grasp what makes this account so compelling and disturbing without getting completely lost in all the esoteric details.
Think of us as guides, maybe.
Kind of, yeah. Guides shining a light into some very, very dark corners of these pages.
And we'll take you through the material piece by piece, highlighting the key passages and the ideas they represent based, strictly on what the sources themselves actually tell us.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's begin with the initial core of this deep dive. The diary itself and the woman it belongs to, Vilma Z. Who is she, according to the sources? And what state is she in when this diary begins?
Well, the editor's introduction really sets the stage immediately. The diary is presented as a record of a profound regression.
Regression, okay.
Vilma Z was apparently engaged in what are described as efforts to achieve a state of divinity. So essentially a high-level spiritual or perhaps occult experiment.
Right. Trying to reach something higher.
Exactly. But something went fundamentally wrong. The text states there was a defect in her working, and instead of achieving the divine state she aimed for, she seems to have unleashed, well, the reverse of that to which she aspired.
The reverse of divinity. Yeah, that sounds terrifying. What was the result of this defect?
It resulted in what is chillingly called an abysmal regression to atavisms predating human phases of consciousness.
Wow. Atavisms.
Yeah. So instead of evolving or ascending, she devolved, falling back into forms of being and consciousness that the source implies predate humanity itself.
Wow. So, okay, when the diary opens, she's already in the midst of this terrifying descent. Where is she physically located? What's the setting?
She's staying at an old and isolated house. The purpose is described as recovery after a severe and debilitating sickness. She's acting on advice, presumably hoping this location will aid her healing.
An isolated house. Classic. And she's not alone there, right?
No, she's living with an ill-assorted couple, a Mr. and Mrs. M, and there's also a boy. Her external contact is pretty limited. She mentions meeting few others, like the boy's father, a young female friend of Mrs. M, and people on rare trips to town.
Those rare trips to town seem significant, though. The source hints they are tied to the presence of strange forces.
They are, very much so. She describes returning from these trips in a state of distraction or remorse, having surrendered her will to certain overwhelming forces. She refers to these forces as them or they.
Them, okay.
And the source immediately characterizes these as alien entities, non-human, almost certainly subhuman.
Subhuman. And she gives these entities a specific name from occult lore, doesn't she?
Yes. She identifies these forces as the Qliphoth. This is a critical term for understanding the world this material describes. It pops up again and again.
And the name Gamaliel on the diary cover is connected to this, isn't it? I remember reading that.
It is, yeah. The editor explains that Gamaliel is an ancient Chaldean word that, in the order of the Qliphoth, specifically denotes the Obscene Ones.
The Obscene Ones. Cheerful.
Right. It's symbolized by the ass and the dark side of the moon.
The moon connection again.
Huh.
The source links the moon to blood, seeing it as the basis for spirit materialization and physical embodiment. It's also noted as a basic ingredient in black magic.
Exactly. This specific connection between the moon, blood, and these entities immediately establishes a dark, deeply occult context for her experiences right from the start.
And remarkably, Vilma's state isn't something she hides or is perhaps even fully ashamed of, according to the intro.
No, it seems not. The editor notes in the foreword that she is a self-confessed vampire. This self-identification is presented as a key element of her condition, not necessarily a metaphor, but how she understands what she has become.
Okay, so we have Vilma undergoing an abysmal regression in an isolated house with strange companions, possibly controlled by entities she calls the Qliphoth, and she believes she's a vampire. That's quite a setup.
It's a lot to start with, yeah.
Let's turn to her diary entries themselves, starting in September, and look at the first signs of this decline playing out. What's the surprising nugget here? Because it doesn't start bleak, does it?
No, and that's what's striking. The surprising nugget is how it begins a moment of apparent health and peace that just curdles very quickly into something deeply unsettling. It shows how fast the regression can manifest.
So September 9th.
On September 9th, her initial entry sounds quite positive. She feels well, her illness has abated, she slept soundly, walked in the twilight feeling the throb of the earth, describing it as vibrant, tense, powerful. She had a lovely tea and was looking forward to a quiet evening.
Right, almost idyllic.
Almost. But this opening really highlights the stark contrast with her later state, making the decline all the more dramatic.
But even on that same day, the peace is shattered by something strange in the house itself, isn't it?
Exactly. That's where it turns. She mentions a steady draft blowing inwards, but the key detail is she specifies it is not coming from the open window.
Okay, where then?
It's emanating, she says, from the restless, turbulent heart of this ancient, gnarled house. She immediately senses its negative nature, saying it presages ill, predicting pains and groanings. Even feeling physically well, she feels this pervasive, unnatural wrongness tied specifically to the house.
And just 2 days later, September 11th, her mental state has clearly deteriorated quite a bit.
Yes, significantly. She records a day of sheer listlessness. She mentions tearing out and burning pages of ravings induced by yesterday's madness.
Burning her own writing.
Yeah. And her paranoia is intense. She describes imagining Mr. M and the boy looking askance, convinced they're reading her thoughts or her diary. She feels this terrifying vulnerability, a fear that anyone could access her brain, that engine that snatched from hell such evil abominations.
Such vivid, disturbing language. Despite the paranoia and listlessness, there's also a pull towards the night, right? Even early on.
Right. After burning her ravings, feeling temporarily calm, she decides to dress and stroll down the darkly shaded lane and listen to the creatures of the night. It's a small detail, maybe, but it hints at an early inclination towards the darkness that will later consume her.
Later that day, she feels draining fatigue and records her discomfort.
She notes tired eyes and difficulty writing. She feels compelled to go downstairs to sit with Mr. and Mrs. M, even though their voices sound harsh and grating to her. It suggests a growing aversion to normal human interaction, doesn't it?
It does. And the diary itself seems to take on significance. Beyond just being a journal, it becomes symbolic for her.
It really does. It becomes a focal point for her internal state. She's annoyed by the plain blank cover, wanting something written there, even just diary. This physical blankness leads her to feel a void on the cover, which she immediately equates to a map of her soul.
Wow. A map of her soul.
It's a direct, visceral connection she makes between the physical object and her perceived inner emptiness.
And a deeply ominous statement follows this, doesn't it? About blood.
It does. It's quite chilling. She writes, "But I find delight in pouring out my blood on these cold pages. I suppose they will live somewhere long after."
Pouring out her blood on the pages.
Yeah. This statement is deeply unsettling. It directly links her vital essence, her blood, to the diary, and strongly foreshadows the vampiric themes. It suggests her experiences are literally imbuing the journal with a dark life of its own.
By September 16th, the disorientation about her identity and location seems profound. She doesn't know who or where she is.
Pretty much. She states, "I seem ever doubtful as to where I am or who I am." This feeling of displacement extends geographically. She feels that major cities like London or Paris are as near them as the other, implying that these entities, or her state of being, transcends physical distance somehow.
Them again, they're always present.
Always lurking. She continues to search for her soul, linking the void on the diary cover to its map, and finds nothing. Still empty.
And that strange, unnatural cold she mentioned earlier seems to become more prominent around this time, too.
Yes, she analyzes it more deeply. Despite noting physical health improvement initially, she observes the cold. She opens the window for air, then realizes it's warmer outside than in parts of her room, even with a fire going.
That's definitely weird.
Very. She describes an inexplicable, steady current of ice-cold air that is not a normal draft. It starts near her bed and curves towards the door, contrasting with the stuffy landing outside.
So what does this specific, unnatural cold current signify in the context of this occult regression? It feels like more than just a chilly room.
Absolutely. The source presents it as more than just physical discomfort. In occult narratives, unnatural cold is often a sign of the presence of non-physical entities, or perhaps an energetic drain, a distortion of normal reality caused by their influence.
So it's a physical sign of them.
It seems to be presented that way, a physical sensation tied directly to the spiritual or energetic intrusion of the Qliphoth. It's not just an old house being drafty, it's actively manifesting a strange, cold presence.
Right, it's a tangible sign of the invisible forces she's encountering.
Exactly. And before we leave these early entries, there's a brief, undated incident that seems to hint at a past vulnerability, the F house incident.
Oh yeah, what was that?
She recounts an encounter with a Mr. F, noting his furtive behavior, quivering and thick, hoarse voice as he closed a door. This instills significant fear in her, and she makes a quick excuse about a guardian being angry if she were late.
So maybe a past trauma?
It feels like it, a past traumatic encounter or perhaps a long-standing vulnerability that is maybe resurfacing as her defenses crumble under this current onslaught.
A dark memory or a pattern of past victimhood that's relevant to her current state. Makes sense.
Moving into October, the diary entries become much more explicit about her condition and her desperate need for external energy. This is where her self-confessed vampirism becomes more than just a label, it becomes operational.
This feels like a key turning point. On October 11th, she states directly, "I am obsessed with the idea of obtaining energy. I am utterly depleted and cannot survive until the next moonrise unless vitality comes from somewhere."
That's incredibly direct.
It is. And it explicitly connects her need for external energy to a ritual cycle, suggesting her vampirism is tied to specific occult timing or practices, not just random feeding.
And on that very same day, a deeply unnerving sequence unfolds. A tap on her door.
Yes, tell us about that.
She hears a tap, checks, and no one is there. Then a second, quite unmistakable tap. This sends her into a fit of hysterical anger. She rushes to the door and finds a small, folded, filthy note at her feet. The note is scrawled and reads, "Come again tonight."
Just come again tonight. That is incredibly chilling. What's her reaction? How does she interpret that?
Her immediate reaction is fear and suspicion towards the people in the house, Mr. and Mrs. M, the boy. But then a frightening thought occurred. It might be someone she met in town 16 days ago.
Someone from outside.
Yeah, the implication is this person might have followed her or somehow gained access to the isolated house, which terrifies her even more.
And she confirms her suspicion in an unsettling way, doesn't she? Downstairs.
She does. She goes downstairs under the pretense of getting fruit. Mr. and Mrs. M are with their visitor. As she approaches, a sudden hush descended and their smiles faded, confirming to her they were undisturbed before she appeared.
So they didn't hear the knock or place the note.
Exactly. This reinforces her fear that the note bearer wasn't part of the household, but perhaps the individual from town, or maybe someone connected to them who has access to her, regardless of physical barriers.
And later, she connects this note to a specific, bizarre event involving the boy and a meal.
Yes, in a later entry for October 11th, she recounts surprising the boy in the kitchen and eating a meal with thick and slimy cream.
Slimy cream.
I know. After eating it, she slept. She then realizes that this revolting meal had revived her morbid craving.
Okay, so the meal triggered something.
It seems so, and her understanding of the note shifts because of this.
How so?
It becomes clear to her. The note demanding her presence at the feast was connected to this meal and its effect on her. She explicitly sees the boy as an abject victim, implying he was either the target, a participant, or maybe a conduit in this strange feast that revived her vampiric needs.
So the feast isn't necessarily normal food. It's linked to the transfer of energy, maybe via this slimy meal.
That's how it's presented. It's all part of this energetic exchange.
Which leads us directly to her own unique explanation of vampirism as she experiences it. This isn't, Bram Stoker's Dracula. What are the core tenets of her definition? This seems crucial.
It is. This is a crucial part of the source material. After the note incident, she writes about living in a perpetual state of half-waking nightmare and needing to examine her experiences to lessen their vampiric power. She defines the vampire not just as a blood drinker, but as something that deliberately absorbs the energy of the living.
Energy absorption, okay. What's its fundamental nature, according to her?
Its fundamental characteristic is that it is dead. She means detached from normal life, emotionally sterile. Love and hate, in her view, are meaningless to it.
So emotionally dead, detached, and contact with it is dangerous even for those not directly attacked. She mentioned something about that.
Yes, she states contact infects or ruins even without actual vampirism. It drains energy for a singular, introverted, and self-contained existence with no ambition beyond living to live. It's a pure sensualist, relishing only the power to relish everything, living entirely at the expense of others.
Pure parasite, essentially.
Yeah, it's presented as a rare, purely parasitic phenomenon.
She also offers symbolic interpretations of traditional vampire lore, like the night thing.
Yes, she sees nocturnal activity as symbolic of the waning or darkening effect on the victim and the vampire's own inactive energies needing external vitality. Night and darkness are linked to secrecy, sorcery, savagery, sexual cravings, gestation, and similar intrauterine conceptions. Very Freudian, almost.
And the traditional side of attack, the neck.
She disputes that. She claims the attack is aimed at the sexual part, the belly and sexual center, seeing these as the main founts of the fiendish feast.
The sexual center, okay.
She believes the physical fact of this attack was modified into the popular legends about neck biting. The legend of longevity symbolizes blood's power to perpetuate existence, noting how rarely they are caught, leading to long dispersed incidents being linked over time.
And the physical act of feeding, is it the bite?
She calls the twin punctures euphemistic. The real aim, she says, is to tap animal life at its source, the generator of life. A prolonged attack can be quickly fatal, but often induces a coma in young, healthy victims.
And the dreams people have in that coma.
The dreams experienced during this coma are, in her view, the basis for the legends. The shock of the assault creates those impressions. She attributes the lack of external traces to why some dismiss it as imagined.
And psychologists miss this. They focus on the wrong thing.
She feels they fail because they interpret the legends born from the victim's abnormal state rather than investigating the underlying mechanism of vampirism itself. They're looking at the symptoms, not the cause.
What about the mirror superstition, the idea a vampire casts no reflection? How does she explain that?
She connects this to reproduction. A mirror reflects an image, it reproduces. Since a vampire exists on stolen vitality, it cannot reproduce normally. It breeds its likeness by empathetic obsession.
Empathetic obsession. Interesting phrase.
Isn't it? And she notes the female vamp draws energy from males, specifying the source as the seed rather than the blood.
Okay, seed, not blood, for the female vampire. That's specific. These insights from Vilma, the self-confessed vampire, provide a fascinating, if horrifying, window into the nature of what's happening to her within the framework of the source.
Absolutely. It's not just a monster. It's presented as a state of being, a parasitic existence tied to energy and fundamental life forces.
And it makes perfect sense of her statement about needing energy and the events surrounding the note and the feast. She sees herself operating under these principles, needing external vitality because her own self-sustaining energies are no longer operative due to the regression.
Exactly. Her interactions in the house, particularly towards the boy, become clearer attempts to satisfy this need, viewed through this lens.
This detailed, dark definition sets the stage for the escalating events in her diary and helps us understand the horrific climax involving the boy later on.
Precisely. As we move further into October and November, the consequences of her state and her actions unfold. The boy's condition, for example, is something she observes with a terrifying mix of clinical detachment and growing intent.
She notes his deterioration from October 11th onwards, right after the note incident.
Yes, she observes he's become more sullen, resenting his father. He's losing weight, and the skin on the flabby folds of his neck is wrinkled and scaly. She becomes convinced he's mad and needs medical attention, though her concern feels more observational than, genuinely compassionate.
Right. Then comes a disturbing action on October 11th or 12th, involving Mrs. M's friend. She steals something.
She steals a photograph of the young female friend, explicitly noting it will suit my purposes admirably. She plans a rite for that night, focusing on the photo.
a magical rite using the photo.
That's the strong implication.
Yeah.
However, she's frustrated because her attempts to leave her room are blocked by the boy being awake on the landing. She ends up exhausted from her foiled efforts.
But the next day, October 12th, she believes the rite was successful despite the interruption.
Yes, oddly enough, she wakes late, concentrates on the photo, and is convinced the rite was successful. She plans to feign illness to avoid facing anyone.
And then the house suddenly erupts in commotion. What happens?
It does. The source describes the house becoming suddenly alive with anger and upheaval. Vilma initially feels rage at the boy for seemingly ruining her plan, but then the crucial realization occurs when she overhears Mr. and Mrs. M talking about calling a doctor for their friend who has fainted.
The friend in the photograph.
Exactly. They say she would come around, everything would be all right, and she would think she had fainted.
Ah. So her understanding shifts dramatically.
Instantly. In that moment, she has a swift, clear realization that her plans had not miscarried after all, that they had, in fact, been singularly successful. The woman, the subject of her rite, was affected.
Wow.
Vilma immediately wonders where she is and hears the M's muffled voices near the boy's room, adding a chilling implication about his potential involvement, or maybe where the woman was taken after fainting.
So she then goes downstairs and confronts the M's, who try to hide what happened.
Pretty much. Mrs. M confronts her, distressed, saying, "My friend has fainted." Mr. M emerges from the dining room, closes the door, and stands blocking it, his posture resolute. Vilma understands they did not wish me to know what had happened.
Trying to keep her out of it.
Exactly. She offers help, but Mrs. M dismisses her, saying everything will be fine by morning.
By October 19th, a week later, the aftermath is clear, and Vilma's state has changed again, hasn't it?
Yes. The woman was taken away in an ambulance, though she wasn't expected to die. The boy is described as prostrate. Vilma, in stark contrast, notes she has regained her old energy and verve.
So the rite worked, in her view, and she got energy from it.
It seems so, but she also feels a deep depression which will not be dispelled until the next moon rite, explicitly linking her energy levels to these events and her ritual cycle again. She decides to leave the house temporarily after this.
Despite regaining energy, a palpable sense of dread sets in on October 20th. Another shift.
It's described as intolerable, subtle, sensing danger on the chill breeze seeping into her bones. It's an evil cold that's more marked at night, echoing the earlier description of the unnatural cold current and reinforcing the idea that these oppressive forces are tied to the location and her state. That cold is persistent.
Then we get a deeply disturbing series of undated entries that seem to represent the culmination of her vampiric craving and regression. It gets really intense here.
Yeah, there's a sequence of terrifying sensory experiences. She mentions eyes watching her, exhaustion, going to the bathroom, dozing in a cubicle, waking to being watched through a small grating. The two beady glints she sees become the boy's eyes.
The boy again.
His appearance is described as hideous, licking his lips with relish.
This feels like the feast from the note finally manifesting in a horrific vision or encounter, maybe.
It really does. She describes exposing her belly, her body thrilling, as when about to satisfy some secret desire. She attempts to draw a sign or impress something on his eyes, but falls, writhing, seeing monstrous forms laughing around her.
And then it just stops.
Abruptly. The vision ends, replaced by ice-cold clarity and calm. Like the storm passed.
And she reflects strangely on this experience, framing it almost religiously.
Yes, it's odd. She compares writing about them after having denied them to religious conversions. She states, chillingly, "I am theirs utterly."
Utterly theirs.
She questions if they have taken complete possession, but a flicker of hope remains. She believes she might still strike back, regain peace, asserting she is a woman and will triumph yet.
This shows the internal conflict is still ongoing, even after declaring allegiance. On October 25th, she explicitly struggles with acedia's spiritual sloth or apathy, and questions if her will is asserting itself or if her imagination has overwhelmed will.
Which the editor links earlier to her failed spiritual experiment.
Right. And she blames herself for not listening to wise remarks about awakening the head before the heart, feeling why assessed her accurately.
Who is this why? We haven't heard much about them yet.
Not much detail yet, just someone whose advice she ignored, apparently about the proper order of spiritual awakening. She believes her pride and superciliousness prevented her from enjoying things, leading to a starved part of her nature that bulged into an ugly pustule and burst.
That's a grotesque image. This introspection suggests her regression isn't just external, it's linked to her inner state. a part of her nature that was perhaps repressed or misdirected, exploding destructively.
And in a disturbing meditation, she feels in touch with a source of omniscience. While contemplating evil, the external blackness feeling like a teratoma, like a monstrous growth inside her.
Yeah, a teratoma is a type of tumor containing different tissue types, often horrifyingly misplaced. It's a powerful metaphor for this internal corruption.
After these intense personal accounts, Vilma's diary shifts again, this time into philosophical and occult reflections. It's almost as if she's trying to intellectually process the chaos that's consuming her.
Trying to build a framework for it.
Maybe. On October 26th, she records notes on chaos. What is her perspective here? How does she understand chaos?
She sees chaos blending with red creative earth, which she equates with blood, imbuing it with life. This earth, or first matter, forms the body, with blood becoming flesh, physically generated by slime upon other oleaginous substances.
Slime again, like the meal.
Exactly. She quotes an alchemist. All animals increase themselves by a slime. The concept of form, she believes, is inherent in this slime, but it's a process of duplication, not creation, as true creation happens in spirit.
So chaos is like a fundamental, life-generating slime, but limited to duplication, not genuine creation.
Precisely. The chaos back of all things is the slime from which the ego arises. It's a force without direction or completion, aimless, inexhaustible, leading to non-fulfillment and giving human nature wayward tendencies from the very start.
And the brain develops from this slime.
She sees the brain as an evolutionary development of the idea latent in the slime. The spermatozoon, starting in slime, culminates in the brain, which then affects and molds the slime. Her chilling conclusion is that this makes the whole scheme of manifestation a vicious circle, linking it to the Buddhist wheel of rebirth.
A closed loop.
Yeah, a cycle of endless duplication, not true creation or transcendence.
And magic offers a way out of this circle.
She defines magic as the science of transcendence, a means to organize chaos and blend idea and slime. When God and chaos concur, real creation becomes possible. Magic achieves this through attraction or love.
Love here isn't romantic love, though. It's a driving force.
Right. A biological urge to completion present in every kingdom. Using this urge correctly can momentarily balance or annihilate force. At this fleeting point where idea and matter are abolished and there is neither evil nor good, true creation is possible, giving birth to the fundamental and obsessive desire or will at the self's root.
The true will.
Seems like it. The self flowers, truth dawns in self and ecstasy, a transcendence of twin forces, free of consequence like samadhi, outside space and time.
This sounds exactly like the spiritual aspiration she was originally attempting before the regression kicked in.
It really does, and she contrasts this with the concept of genius, which she sees not as transcendence but as an enhanced degree of unbalanced force, creating a great gulf between the man and his work. Geniuses appear mad, their actions seemingly unrelated to their creations.
She calls them changelings, doesn't she?
Yes, changelings of the absolute, snatched from a sinister shadowland, bursting through matter. Matter, trying to choke originality, seeks to destroy them. Geniuses seem supremely unbalanced to those ignorant of transcendental balance, which discloses noumenal reality. Their perceived evil or alien delights are just misunderstood by the unenlightened.
Okay, so within her philosophical framework, her own regression could be seen as a perversion or failure of this creative impulse, like an unbalanced force that didn't transcend but fell back into the regressive slime of the Qliphoth.
That interpretation aligns really well with her notes. She's attempting transcendence but gets caught in the vicious circle of duplication and atavism represented by the Qliphoth. Her perceived madness or transformation is the destructive manifestation of this unbalanced force.
And she links this to sin.
Yeah, defining sin as misappropriation of the self's energy against its nature, leading to sterile joys for those ignorant of the self.
These philosophical ideas add a layer of intellectual, albeit very dark, context to her personal horror story. It's not just happening to her, she's trying to understand why.
After these philosophical entries, the diary has a significant gap noted by the editor. From October 28th to November 8th, the pages are mostly illegible.
Illegible? What does the editor say is there?
Filled with symbols, stains, and fragmented phrases indicating deep distress like, "When will it end?" in block capitals and repeated mentions of delirium.
The editor attributes this period to her illness, increased drug use, hallucinations, and delirium. Despite this mental eclipse, she continues to write somehow, filling pages with a host of incoherent demons.
There are clear signs of intense suffering and rage during this time. Violent outbursts, a fierce detestation of humankind, and strong accusations against Y, whom she blames for her malaise and her fall from magical and mystical paths.
The one whose advice she ignored. Now she's blaming him.
Exactly. The editor suggests a specific drug is responsible for opening gateways to her unconscious, leading to an inferno where she confronts the self she has become since they took possession.
This hiatus sounds like a terrifying period of further descents and internal struggle. When she returns to legible writing on November 9th, the core problem remains, doesn't it? The energy need.
Oh, yes, absolutely. She states an overwhelming desire for energy, again, lamenting the lack of a suitable victim in her isolated place. She attempts to attract one, but falls asleep.
Later that day, there's a disturbing conflict with Mrs. M and the boy. What happens there?
Mrs. M wakes her, prompting Vilma to curse her. Vilma then sees the boy on the landing. She describes his sickly smile, which changed to a horrid leer when he saw I was undressed. She slams the door, feeling excited but bilious.
And in that moment, she makes a chilling decision regarding the boy, right?
She does. She thinks, still, I suppose he'll do. At least he is on the spot. She decides to wait until night, explicitly identifying him as a potential victim for her energy needs.
He's the available target.
Pretty much. However, that same night, she fails to act again.
Why?
She notes, I could not summon sufficient energy to make the attempt last night. The intent is there, fueled by her need, but the power is lacking. She can't muster it.
On November 10th, she receives a letter from T, who seems concerned. Who is T?
We don't know much about T yet, other than they seem concerned. T asks for details, and Vilma decides to tell him the truth about being ill, lost, and lonely, and posts the letter.
That same day, Mrs. M's friend arrives again, the woman from the incident in October, the one who fainted.
Yeah, the one from the photo, right? The boy is skulking, watching Vilma with his eyes, and she perceives him telepathing, you keep out of this, or...
Telepathing threats. Wow.
This threatening attitude from the boy, combined with her own state, makes her decide to spend the evening with the two women, perhaps seeking safety in numbers or just avoiding being isolated with the boy.
The tension in that house must have been unbearable.
Then comes a vivid, dark passage, possibly from November 10th, that expresses deep despair but also suggests a kind of grotesque transformation.
What does she say?
She describes herself as a sapless image of ugliness, a scarecrow, a necrophile's dream. Her physical description is horrifying: hair like burnt grass, eyes like ghoulites, flesh and bone, a geometric ghostliness. She questions who could see her and survive, feeling fixed for the leering gods.
A horrifying vision of her perceived physical state, like she's becoming monstrous.
But the passage ends with a stark shift. She lay moaning and awoke before midnight, replete with energy and boundless strength, in a dark, cold room, an unearthly light stealing over me like a silver thread of incandescent evil.
Incandescent evil. So her energy has returned, but it seems to be fueled by darkness and evil itself, not vitality drawn from another person this time.
That's how it reads. A different source of power, maybe directly from them.
By November 13th, her life is defined by violent outbursts followed by inertia and prolonged periods of writing. She finds inspiration richest at the darkest hour, gushing from some unfathomable interior.
Mrs. M brings another letter from T. He's disturbed by her previous letter and suggests seclusion to stem the countercurrent threatening her.
What's her reaction?
Vilma sees this as the only way out, but immediately despairs. No, it is useless. I can but await the end. There is no hope for me. They have won.
Complete surrender.
Seems like it. And this leads to her chilling resolution.
What does she resolve to do?
Having surrendered, she states, at their bidding, I shall drag other souls through the drains of darkness that I have made my hell home. She resolves to unfold my arms and clasp who comes to my scale-sleek breasts.
Scale-sleek breasts. Horrifying. She's committing to becoming an active agent of the forces that have taken her over, actively preying on others now.
Exactly. Despite this horrific resignation, the internal conflict flares again on November 17th. One last gasp, maybe.
What happens?
She rates of striving for unity, experiencing moments of bliss, seeing herself in fragments of matter, her corruption annulled, feeling beauty within. Her will, desire, and belief feel united. A fire, an ocean of brilliance, her vision perfect, the way plain. A moment of clarity.
But this moment of transcendence is violently broken, isn't it?
Yes, immediately. She's driven back by obscene laughter. The Qliphoth claw me down and I am torn asunder. She describes a vision of the Hecate toad. savage-eyed, head bulging with talismans drooling. This is the laughing beast curled in the coils of my brain.
The Hecate toad. A deeply disturbing image representing the forces within her taking over again.
She sees herself stretching upwards in a phallic forest, reigning as queen of this region from a throne of running water which glints like gold in evil moonlight. Her robes are blood reds described as unearthly, stricken, a fountain of palsied nightmare, blighted and tainted with the devil spawn that bred me.
Devil spawn that bred her. Wow.
In this vision state, she feels effortless, beyond needing keys or signs. It's like a horrifying glimpse of her transformed state within the Qliphothic realm she is yielding to.
Tries to fight it.
She attempts to dispel this miasma by visualizing her path, but feels lost in the immense and lonely jungle of the Qliphoth, finding no stability. She stumbles and falls into blackness.
And following this, a deeply disturbing entry that echoes the earlier feast and note, but now seems tied to a dark oath she's taken.
Right. She describes another self burst from my belly and wheeled around me, only to catch its tail in an ensanguined chunk of food. Yes, food. Her body craves food and air, but she states she is bound by oath in this right to partake of nothing terrestrial, nothing substantial from the universe without.
So the oath binds her to her vampiric nature. She must obtain energy by non-terrestrial means, not normal food.
That seems to be the implication. This explains her desperate need for energy and leads directly to the violent confrontation that seems to be the climax of her story in the diary.
Yes. Her craving for non-terrestrial sustenance immediately follows into a heated argument with Mrs. M about her food tray. Vilma accuses Mrs. M of wanting her out due to screams, which Vilma denies making.
And Mrs. M reveals the boy has been talking about her.
Ah, telling tales.
Mrs. M says the boy has told her things about Vilma. Vilma calls the boy demented, which sends Mrs. M into a rage, ordering Vilma back to her room.
And the tension finally explodes into physical violence.
It does. Vilma notes she was about to strike Mrs. M, but the boy appears, poked his tongue in my face, so she strikes him instead. He moans like jelly.
She loses control.
Completely. Unfamiliar voices shrieked abuse and abomination in her ear. A fiendish-looking skull appears, belching obscenity. She sees through a blood haze of lassitude as the boy crouches. She's overcome by uncontrollable frenzy.
And the boy attacks her directly this time.
He lunges and sniffs at me like a dog. The ceiling melts. He grabs her hips in bands of iron, and here is the description of the energetic exchange. Her energy ebbed and flowed in a rhythmic vortex which sucked me dry.
Sucked her dry. So he drained her. Or is it ambiguous?
It reads like he initiated the physical attack, grabbing her, but the energy flow description, sucked me dry, still implies she was the source being drained by the vortex created in the struggle, perhaps feeding the Qliphothic forces involved rather than the boy himself directly benefiting. It's intense and maybe deliberately confusing, but the end result for him is clear.
And the horrific, immediate consequence for the boy. What happens to him?
Immediately after the struggle, the boy collapses, described graphically as a gray and depleted sack draped over the banister.
Oh my God. The gray and depleted sack. This is the horrific climax Vilma's diary seemed to be building towards. Is this the feast alluded to earlier? Has she successfully drained him, or has the interaction drained them both for them?
Based on the sequence, Vilma's need for energy, her vampiric self-ID, and the description of the vortex and his collapse. It's strongly implied this is the violent manifestation of her condition and the forces involved. Whether she fed or the whole chaotic energy exchange just destroyed him for the benefit of them is hard to say definitively from the text, but the devastating effect on the boy is undeniable. It demonstrates how the occult struggle has manifested in a terrifying, physically destructive act.
It's a horrifying end to the main portion of her diary. But it doesn't quite end there, does it? There are gaps and later fragments.
Right. The editor notes a gap of over 2 months after this event, followed by illegible pages and another gap. We get brief summaries of what happened in these periods.
Yes, after T withdraws support, which the editor implies is because Y, his supplier, cut him off, Vilma faces financial problems. And how does she solve them?
The editor says she solved them in the manner with which the reader has been acquainted, strongly hinting at more vampiric or exploitative activities. The bigger problem for her is a lack of drugs, particularly heroin, which T supplied from Y.
So Y was the drug source too? Interesting.
Seems so. The diary becomes filled with accusations against Y. She contacts a local man connected to a London drug ring but gets an inadequate supply, forcing her to resort to alcohol, described luridly as methylated orgega. She's away from the house at odd intervals.
Methylated orgies, good grief.
When drunk, she shrieks accusations at Y, blaming him for her utter abjection and his terrible dominion over her. The editor mentions murder, rape, and blackmail are part of this sordid period, linking her state and activities to horrific criminal acts.
Desperate for heroin, she performs another moonrite to magically obtain supplies and plans to go to London to get drugs by violence if necessary. This is getting really dark.
Then we get a return to a legible entry on July 11th, describing a terrifying morning. She wakes sensing something terrible and sees two men, one of familiar medical type and a larger man in black with a bag, entering the house. Shivering, she thinks they've come to take her away, to put me in a box and bury me.
Like an asylum or worse. And she witnesses a replay of the October incident with Mrs. M's friend, right?
Yes, almost exactly. She wakes suddenly and sees Mrs. M's friend being brought out, struggling and screaming, barely covered and taken away. Mr. M is talking excitedly to the two strangers. She sees the boy's door closing softly upstairs, reinforcing that he was involved in the earlier incident somehow.
In a later entry for July 11th, she recounts going to town to earn more rent, getting drunk, meeting someone for cocaine, snow, but shying away from heroin. She feels this is a chance to make a fresh start. A moment of hope.
Maybe, but she immediately contradicts this, stating, "I knew it was no good. It could not have lasted." She feels she has so grown into the well, the break, and the wilderness about me that to uproot myself now would destroy me.
Grown into the wilderness, bound to the place.
Yeah, she feels bound to stay where they have placed her. She refers to herself crassly as an easy lay and takes satisfaction in knowing she has poxed him through and through, suggesting her activities are deliberately harmful, tied to her vampiric destructive nature.
Then, in an entry dated July 10th, but written on the 11th, she describes setting out to return to the house, her clothes torn and dusty, people staring. She feels a powerful compulsion towards a large, strange building with a turret.
A specific building draws her in.
Yes, it appears farther than it looks, shrouded in violet mist. As she walks, the landscape becomes increasingly strange. A tangled wood, gorgeous flowers, luminous leaves, a cool sapphire sky. The building looms, majestic, appearing near and far simultaneously.
Like a dreamscape.
Exactly. She walks for hours, feeling numb but anticipating pleasure. She sees open wells and exotic birds, noting the sun setting as dusk and violet veils surround her. Stars and a blood-tinged saffron sun appear in the evening sky. This journey feels like a final yielding covenant, leading her deeper into the realm of the Qliphoth, or the entity she serves, the wilderness about me she feels bound to.
It really does. She focuses on the turret, trying to pierce the darkness, seeing its darker form and a strange, dull crimson glow from its narrow slits. It feels near, yet she struggles, falls, smashes her face, crashes through brush, hearing unearthly sounds.
She finally reaches the turret, falls prostrate at the threshold, feeling she could face hell itself rather than that swamp she had made of her life outside this place. She feels she's in hell then, but enters anyway, and the great door slams shut behind her.
Wow, that entry seems to describe her final surrender and entry into the complete dominion of the forces that have claimed her. The building with the turret and wells feels like a symbolic or maybe even actual location within the Qliphothic realm she has been drawn into, a final descent.
An undated entry later refers to a day that sealed my own doom and exalted me to the throne of Gay. This seems to confirm her entry into the turret structure and achieving some twisted form of dark ascension or enthronement.
Okay, another name.
Seems like it. She feels she has slept for many days, appearing asleep to Mrs. M back at the house somehow, having barricaded herself back in her room.
So she returned physically or astrally?
It's ambiguous.
Yeah.
After this sleep, the house has changed. Her room smells of corruption. There's a brooding loneliness, as if all souls had fled.
Oh, wow.
It's silent, but she hears a sound above her.
She tries to open her bolted door, but it's stuck. She rushes to the window. It's all dark, no stars. The room is dark. She can't see the door. And then the horrifying realization hits her. She is blind.
Blind, temporarily.
Apparently. When she recovers her vision, it's only partially restored. The door is now open. She rushes onto the landing and sees the boy.
What about the boy?
Naked, dangling limply over the banister. The rail collapses and his body falls to the hall below.
He's dead. How?
The text doesn't explicitly state the cause then and there. She's petrified by his scream, but morbidly fascinated by his broken spine, twisted neck, and a disturbing, curious phenomenon which in death had erected his penis.
That graphic detail is horrifying and raises questions about his death. Is it a delayed effect of her vampiric attack months earlier? Or something else tied to the forces in the house? His own involvement?
It's left hanging, adding to the horror. And the horror doesn't end with his death. She enters his room.
What's in his room?
She sees the devil spawn swimming in a jar of alcohol. Beside it, a basin with a greenish-colored fluid streaked with blood, which she throws and tramples, releasing a miasmic stench. A wizened face, swimming in aspic, appears in the mist. Then, in a nightmare of chaos, she flounders blindly, and the thing swam clear and swarmed upon me.
The devil spawn?
Yeah.
Swarmed upon her. What is it?
This grotesque devil spawn seems to be a physical manifestation of the energies or entities involved, perhaps the literal consequence of the feast or the regressive processes she and the boy were involved in. The scene is chaotic, horrifying, and seems to mark Vilma's final, complete immersion into madness or the Qliphothic state. The diary, or this published portion, ends here.
Vilma's story, as told through her diary and the editor's notes, is a chilling account of a spiritual experiment leading to a horrific regression, transformation into a parasitic entity, and a final, terrifying descent into a Qliphothic realm and madness. Just unbelievable stuff.
But the source material gives us another layer to this story. The editor reveals how this diary came into their possession, and its connection to a man named R, showing that the horror wasn't confined to Vilma. It spread.
Right, the frame story. The editor states up front that the diary was undoubtedly the chief cause of R's death. R was known in occult circles for his collection of macabre writings and cult objects.
The narrator, who is the editor, mentions that R joined an unusual cult, a small group investigating occult byways, holding evenings for visitors.
And the narrator meets a man named L at R's house on October 12th, coincidentally, the same day Vilma's rite succeeded and Mrs. M's friend fainted, though this connection isn't made by the characters at the time.
That date is significant, then.
Seems so. L is described physically as small, dark, and impeccable. But when he speaks, he becomes brilliant, exotic, bizarre, and intensely compelling, making even his most fantastic statements seem grounded on the firmest of facts.
Charismatic, but maybe dangerous.
Extremely. He has vast, unusual knowledge of necromancy, sorcery, witchcraft, and psychology. The narrator feels literally enchanted.
After L leaves the country, R begins investigating disappearances reported in newspapers, concluding they are victims of black brotherhoods, like secret societies involved in crime.
That's the implication. R traces one such brotherhood to East London, where missing children are found in distress. The narrator visits R and notes a change in him. He's sullen and irritable. R is frustrated he can't trace others involved and believes only L, with his knowledge of international occult networks, could help.
The narrator suggests revenge might be taken against R for apprehending one of the group. A man named J.R. dismisses it, but the text states chillingly that revenge was taken. Foreshadowing.
Heavy foreshadowing. L later invites R to Luxor, Egypt. R impulsively goes. He returns months later to London, and the narrator notes a further change in R. To the narrator's amazement, R is in love.
In love. R the collector of morbid things.
Exactly. R describes meeting an unknown woman on the return voyage from Egypt. He felt an intense, reciprocated affinity. She was recovering from an obscure disease, possessed inexhaustible knowledge, indescribable charm, and beauty. He felt enchanted, believing he was communing with the very source of the universe.
Wow. Sounds intense.
She evaded questions about her identity, only saying she was ill and would never recover. This encounter obsessed him like a powerful drug. He lost track of her after docking. He tells the narrator about L, I shall never go back, suggesting this woman has replaced his interest in occult pursuits, or L himself.
A femme fatale, almost.
Seems like it. He tries to return to his morbid interest in collection, but is clearly changed by this encounter.
R later gives the narrator letters from L, who is in Tunis. The narrator finds them compelling, feeling L's power, noting their diabolical subtlety, accounts of curious incidents and discourses on soul, evil, metaphysics, and the inexplicable. L is still in the picture.
Months later, the narrator visits R again, finding him highly unbalanced, though recovering from emotional unhappiness. L is now sending him letters from Rome, containing pages of a diary by an occultist who took a wrong path. R calls it a unique glimpse of the Qliphoth.
Vilma's diary.
It has to be. And R elaborates on his understanding of the Qliphoth based on these letters, defining it as the world of shells, shed by once vital organisms that live on in a half-life, sustained by emanations of unbalanced minds.
So psychic pollution, essentially.
Kind of. It's a polluted commingling of decaying mental bodies, creating a massive entity reaching back to a remotest past, reanimating racial memory ghosts, creating atavisms that feed and fatten on more recently deceased thought waves.
And R links this to even stranger entities, doesn't he? Lovecraftian stuff.
Yes, explicitly. According to R and L's letters, entities from this midden had, via sympathetic vibration, evoked creatures from an alien dimension, denizens of watery realms known as the Deep Ones. Their ultimate god or devil mentioned in the diary pages was named Cthulhu.
So Grant is weaving Lovecraft directly into this Qliphothic framework. That's fascinating.
And R explains that the writer of the diary, the woman, had fallen foul of these entities. They are known collectively as the Gamaliel, and their points of contact are swamps, pools, and wells on Earth, and the human generative system.
The generative system again.
Yeah. Through the latter, the diary writer was swept back to a pre-evil stage of evolution, characterized by a belief in the mother impregnated by her child, predating male solar cults. This directly links Vilma's horrific regression to these specific Qliphothic Deep One forces and their primitive, perverse nature.
R is reticent to say more, appalled at the narrator's suggestion of using the diary for a psychological case history. The narrator promises silence, but suspects L met a strange and lonely outcast in the realms of the spirit.
But the full chilling truth isn't revealed until after R's death, is it?
No. The editor, reviewing R's papers after his death, discovers the horrific cause. The ingenious Y, whom Vilma cursed and blamed in her diary,
Why was L?
was none other than L himself, confirmed in the last letter R received.
Wow. So the revenge was taken phrase now makes terrifying sense. Why?
Yai's brother had been ruined by R's investigations into the Black Brotherhoods. Y's letter confesses his lust for vengeance against R.
And the core of his cruel plot is revealed. What did he do?
Y confesses to debauching Vilma and sending her back to England on the same ship as R. He deliberately used her as a focus for his powers of fascination, enslaving R's soul to the woman's beauty and strange intelligence.
Enslaving his soul to her beauty, but Vilma describes herself horribly.
Exactly. That's what the text calls devilish cunning, especially considering that, as we know from Vilma's diary, her outward appearance by this point must have been a truly abhorrent spectacle. He made R fall for the idea of her intelligence, despite the reality.
He used the victim of the very forces R was exposing as the weapon against him, manipulating R into falling deeply in love with her, despite her terrifying condition. That's pure evil.
And Vilma was sent to T, who was Y's agent in England, with instructions to ensure she worked out her fate free from the cares of the material world.
What does that mean?
The editor calls this most cunning devilry, as preventing her from dealing with the material world likely removed the grounding or means necessary for her to combat the demon possession, kept her isolated and vulnerable.
Y's final letter describes the Qliphoth of the Esotic verse, supplementing the diary material. The editor states the thought of R's torments was unendurable, realizing that the woman he loved had fused her soul's agony into the diary he was preparing to publish. Her naked spirit lay unveiled to the eyes of all.
The shock of that realization
Was more than a sensitive individual like R could survive with sanity intact, the editor believes.
The narrator expresses deep remorse, blaming himself for introducing R to YL in the first place. The chronology of the tragedy reveals the deliberate, cruel nature of the plot. R exposes societies, meets L unaware, works with L, returns with Vilma unaware of her identity, falls deeply in love, years pass, receives the diary from L, and intends to publish it as a warning, the very document imbued with the suffering of the woman used to destroy him.
This narrative layer reveals a terrifying dimension. The danger isn't just the raw, regressive occult energies themselves, but that they can be consciously directed and wielded by malevolent human actors like YL for personal revenge. It adds a layer of human cruelty to the cosmic horror.
And the ultimate tragedy is that the very document R intended to share as a warning became the instrument of his destruction. It's incredibly dark.
But the source material doesn't end there, does it? There's a whole other section found among R's papers.
That's right. Among R's papers, the editor found a second distinct narrative or possibly related documents, starting with the striking title, Dance, Doll, Dance. This section explores a different, though strangely connected set of experiences, shifting perspective again. It's not clear who the narrator is here.
Okay, dance, doll, dance.
Yeah.
What happens in this one? It starts with an attack.
Yes, the narrative begins with this unnamed narrator awakening after an attack by a woman named Roma. She attempted to kill him with a knife, but failed, achieving her end by other means, described as draining his life and something more than life, like a vampire.
Draining life again. Echoes Vilma.
Exactly. There's a strange, tense conversation where the narrator asks Roma why she killed Organ, indifferent to me and I wanted him, hinting at a complex, violent triangle. Roma responds with contempt, "I despise you," and reveals her teeth have savage sharpness.
Savage sharpness. Filed teeth.
Possibly. That detail, file or savage teeth, is another element that will recur in this section.
The narrative then jumps to a bizarre scene in a wood involving girls from a hostel. What's going on there?
The narrator observes music, stripping, and a focus on a young male driver. It's interpreted as a mock celebration of the rite of the summer solstice.
A mock rite. The narrator gets pulled into this.
He does. He describes being drawn in, coupling like mad beasts with one of the girls, then being pulled apart. His experience is described as a conflagration, followed by black bars of darkness, like passing out or an altered state.
After this, he wakes feeling detached from his body. What do the girls do?
The girls bind him with thick green tendrils of snakeweed and festoon him, like decorating him. One girl voids urine in an animalistic way, staring with a leer of indescribable beastliness and uttering obscenities. He realizes he is participating in a lunar and averse form of the solar rite.
Lunar and averse. This scene is packed with symbolism that mirrors themes from Vilma's diary, isn't it?
Yeah.
The focus on sexual centers, the unnatural or averse nature of the rite, contrasting with the natural solar rite, the regression to bestial behavior, it all feels connected to the Qliphothic energies and the inversion of natural processes.
Absolutely. It's like another facet of the same dark gem. He then has a dream vision of Roma herself.
Roma from the beginning. What's the vision?
A spectral, naked Roma approaches the bound youth from the wood rite. Her face has a peculiarly Mongol formation and savage exultancy. Organ's sacrificial knife is present, its glint changing from sunlight to moonlight. The youth shrieks, and the narrator falls into blackness as a great blood-red moon rises.
That vision directly links Roma back to the earlier narrative and presents her as a spectral or energetic entity involved in a ritualistic sacrifice or energetic draining tied to lunar energy. And the Mongol formation face detail is striking that sounds familiar from later descriptions too.
Yes, it recurs. Returning to the hostel, the narrator shows physical signs of his ordeal wheals and scratches. He encounters Marchester and a distraught Henderson, who had a dream of seeing Roma enter the narrator's room, reinforcing her spectral presence. She can move around apparently unseen.
There's an unsettling encounter, somewhat out of narrative sequence in the source, with a woman named Sigrid. Tell us about her.
She is described with a potent combination of traits, exquisitely formed, blending Afro-Asian barbarity with the suavity of those rare European women, and having simian movements. This blend of origins and the simian quality is notable and echoes the description of the Asiatic Guide later.
Simian movements. Okay. What happens with Sigrid?
Sigrid states that the idol is all right and is back in her room, which infuriates the narrator for some reason. He strikes her, and she bites him with teeth that have been filed to points.
Filed teeth and violence. This links her directly to Roma and the earlier mention of savage sharpness. There's a pattern here.
Definitely. Waking later in Sigrid's room, the narrator tries to escape via a creeper but feels expected. He meets Greta, the tall Swedish girl from the wood rite, who is massive and forbidding. She knows he was with Sigrid and is distressed, saying dreadful things happened that night in the wood, and that Sigrid know and will remember.
But the narrator corrects her.
Yes, he says she knew, realizing that Greta knows Sigrid is dead, which brings him enormous relief. Why relief? Unclear, maybe fear to Sigrid.
Greta is described strangely, too.
As a goddess of physical perfection, with the peculiar detail of her legs being covered in soft yellow down, she asks, "You like honey, yes," and applies honey to her inner thighs, stroking and massaging them like consecrating a sacred talisman reminiscent of courtesans of ancient Chem.
Honey. What's the significance of that?
Greta reveals the girls like her honey meal. It makes them mad. She knew Sigrid knew what happened because others were too drunk or stupid, implying the honey was involved in intoxicating them for the rite. The narrator calls her a cunning bitch.
A rival to Sigrid.
Seems like it. Greta admits she was waiting, not for him, but for Sigrid, stating, "Now we are equal." They plan to leave as they must suspect sinks, but Greta never appears again in the narrative.
So what happened? Marchester brings news?
Yes, Marchester tells the narrator the news. Sigrid Peterson was murdered, knifed by a jealous rival, implicitly Greta, who fell escaping and must have been mad. But there are mysteries.
Mysteries.
No weapon was found, and the creeper tendril Greta supposedly fell from was cut clean through, not snapped.
Cut clean through. That indicates a deliberate act, not an accident. More occult weirdness.
Exactly. Following this, the narrator has a bizarre vision.
Another one.
He sees a vulture transforming into a hawk, then back to a vulture with eyes like knives, a she-jackal baying. A mist takes forms: Sigrid, Greta, bodies pregnant with spume, hair like blood and honey, and the narrator enters the cloud.
Wow. That vision blends the women, the strange substances, blood, honey, spume, and bestial predatory imagery, vulture, jackal, suggesting they are intertwined aspects of the underlying forces or entities the narrator is encountering. It's all connected.
And Marchester reveals the police suspect the narrator was harboring a woman whose description tallies with the new occupier of Organ's room. Things are closing in.
These intertwined encounters with Sigurd and Greta are full of strange symbolism and implied occult activity. The idol, the honey-rite, the filed teeth, the cut creeper. They seem to be part of the same world of energetic vampirism and averse rites, described in Vilma's diary, with these women acting as agents or physical manifestations of these forces.
The theme of the idol and a goddess figure recurs strongly throughout the second narrative, possibly linked to the new occupier of Organ's room or the narrator's recurring visions. He reflects on merging with forms around the goddess, experiencing enhanced senses and a conflagration of his being, comparing it to Swedenborg's angels.
Then there's a diary entry about an Asiatic guide. This seems important.
Very. It's written at dawn after an astral experience, detailing a female creature, familiar spirit, or Asiatic guide. Her description is specific. Resemblance to the Mongol race, suppleness, reptilian quality, hinting at profound and inscrutable knowledge.
What's she look like?
Green cheongsam, dragons shimmering, gold braid, black girdle stockings, scarlet shoes, black glossy hair, almond eyes, pale complexion, red and cruel mouth. The overall impression is of a highly sophisticated beast, suggesting human-non-human ancestry, using glamour to appear as an ideal woman, capable of appearing French or Yankee.
The narrator notes his surprise, being a poet unfamiliar with terms like familiars or succubus. He evokes her via a secret call or knocks. He questions her nature or reflex of Organ's desire, an equaster or tulpa, an obsessional entity pursuing him through his cravings. He calls her Roma X.
Roma X, explicitly linking Roma from the opening of this narrative to this astral entity or familiar. And the description echoes the peculiarly Mongol formation face from the earlier dream vision. It's the same entity in different guises.
He later encounters a woman named Kotavi, who shares the facial description from the Asiatic guide entry that Afro-Asian barbarity mixed with European suavity and notably simian movements.
Kotavi, she sounds like another manifestation. What does she say?
Kotavi states, "I am a goddess, and you desire women." The narrator thinks she's mad, sensing danger. He hypocritically denies desiring women in the world, knowing he has access to astral delights via his window.
His astral window, like projection.
Seems like it. His true desire, he claims, is poetry, quoting Baudelaire. Kotavi dismissively tells him, "You should worship Saraswati."
The narrator realizes Kotavi craves something specific from him.
Yes, the substance that only the male can provide, indicating it's the third requisite for the idol after blood and fire. This links Kotavi directly to the idol and a need for male energy or substance, echoing Henderson's dream about Roma entering the narrator's room and the vampiric draining.
The narrator, despite his desire after recent experiences, sees easy access to astral delights as quickening his poetic sense. He connects physical acts and occult realities through Schopenhauer's idea that everything physical is at the same time metaphysical. Poetry is his means of translating his longings via the idol.
Then there's a deeply strange and symbolic beach encounter with Kotavi.
What happens there?
After he claims no desire for women, Kotavi points out his physical signal of desire, saying, "Look." The couple, described vividly as rolling over and over in their hands like beasts at play, tumbling into a pool, locked in a dance like a yab-yum idol.
Yab-yum, tantric imagery. Her appearance underwater is monstrous. Surfacing, they lie panting. He experiences a kind of rapture, a sense of travel in space, linking stars, not known in waking life. She scales a rock face and disappears, leaving him empty, haunted by a lone white gull.
The connection between Roma, the Asiatic guide, and Kotavi is strongly implied through shared descriptions, Mongol, simian, filed teeth, predatory nature, and their connection to the goddess idol and energetic needs. Kotavi seems to be a key earthly manifestation or aspect of the same entity or goddess figure.
And the blending of sex, occult practice, and poetic aspiration is central, with the male substance being presented as crucial for Kotavi's power or the idol's nourishment. It's a very specific, dark kind of alchemy.
Amidst these disturbing encounters, the narrator meets a woman named Helga on the beach, presented in stark contrast to the others. She's different.
Very different. She's described as shy, bashful, red with confusion, due to a peculiarity of her anatomy. The narrator eases off her slip and approaches her dorsally, believing he is the only man to understand this peculiarity, which is confirmed by bright blood.
Bright blood, what does that signify?
It's not explicitly stated, but it suggests innocence, maybe virginity, contrasting with the others. Helga is presented as pure, filled with sunshine and freshness, radiating light, as others emit rays of smoky darkness. She's described poetically as a chink in the structure of things for admitting transspatial effulgence.
Like a source of positive energy, linked to a different occult center.
Exactly. While the narrator finds the throat center important for poetry, Helga energizes the occult center in the heart, causing it to flower into living light. These centers were clear, but he knew it would not be for long, as he was bound by enthrallment to my spectral brides, compelled to return to Kotavi, Roma X, Lilith, Hecate, not Helga.
So Helga represents a different path, a purer or perhaps solar energy contrasted with the lunar energies of the spectral brides he feels bound to. She knew his underlying adoration for the dreadful idol, and was sad she could not be Eve, cast as Lilith to his Adam.
Suggesting a cosmic role in this drama. He states his real initiation was that journey inward, utilizing instruments of carnal pleasure and creation. He sees the yoni, inverted, as an emblem of the mystical diagram. In its heart, treasured streams of nectar sacred to the goddess.
Nectar again.
He recalls a Vayu Purana verse about gods drinking 15 streams of nectar from the moon in the dark fortnight, calling it the illusion of the goddess. This connects Helga's peculiarity and the bright blood directly to occult ritual and the source of the goddess's power, linked to lunar cycles and physiological processes.
Reinforcing the idea that the body is central to these practices, he feels compelled to return to the spectral brides because he is already deeply entangled with the dark forces they represent, tragically casting Helga as the unattainable Eve figure.
Kotavi reappears later at a place called Rosamandel for a ritual. The narrator is tied to an upright post, which is called the lingam. Urvashi is also present, described as sullen and angry.
Urvashi, another woman.
Yes. Kotavi states the girls are chosen for specific qualities like gentleness, ferocity, etc., which modify the flow of nectar, and Urvashi's savagery serves a necessary office.
Kotavi is described as powerful here.
Effulgent, exultant, with actual rays of light flashing from her, answering a flame in a brazier. Incense creates shapes of fabulous monsters. Smoke discharges plasma or some subtler fabric, forming partially formed limbs and faces.
The narrator questions Kotavi about moon rays and rejuvenation.
Yes, but she is guarded, calling them secrets of her ancient faith with rejuvenating powers. He suspects these powers are her main concern, noting she is much older than she appears, living on these effluvia to retain youth. Women would pay all their wealth for this knowledge.
He asks about an elixir for poetry.
Yeah, hinting at tantras, but Kotavi calls him stupid, saying it's not simple. The desired fluid is secreted only at certain phases of the physiological moon. She warns him not to abduct girls or go with a woman outside the circle during the ordeal, as it would bring destruction.
And she warns him about his astral window, too.
Yes, a chilling warning. Using the astral window in his magnetized state makes it almost impossible to re-inhabit physical body. She has placed a dweller on the other side, which is ravenously thirsty.
A dweller, like an energy parasite he created.
That's the implication. A concrete danger from his astral activities. He is taken to Urvashi's room. Describe her.
Dark, glistening, coiled like a snake. Savage but beautiful face, large dreamy eyes, slow smile revealing strong filed teeth like Kotavi's, jeweled bangles, abnormally long fingers, and markedly simian appearance. She slithers, her movements compared to greater cats, reptiles, and apes, more non-human traits.
During a moment of blinding light, described as an initiation, he realizes that alchemy symbols and signs are literal facts of psychophysiology, relating to the moon, the dark fortnight, elixirs, and unguents. His experiences have revealed the physical reality underlying alchemical concepts in this dark context.
Kotavi gives him instructions before leaving. Her mass is being served perpetually, suggesting the rites are ongoing. He can use Urvashi and some girls for paltry fashion, sex, but Urvashi will indicate the taboo ones, whose needs are not as gross as his.
Kotavi calls him a mere man, but also the guardian of a flame, in the male aspect of the mother. If he could be the flame, he would know what blazes at the heart of the yantra. The flame is hidden in a dancing form.
This section ties together many threads: the goddess, the idol, ritualistic sex, transformation, alchemy, and the dangers of astral work. Kotavi's power is explicitly linked to lunar cycles and physiological processes, requiring male substance. The dweller is a concrete astral threat. The Mass seems to be a continuous ritual service. The flame appears to be the core power of the goddess or the yantra, which the narrator, in his male aspect, could potentially embody but currently only guards.
After Kotavi's departure, Urvashi becomes quite impossible, magnetized and dangerously erotic. Her tenderness hides savagery. The candy she gives him are aphrodisiacs that benefit her but depress him.
The narrator recognizes that in aspiring to poetic creation and trying to sublimate his sacred seed, he is depriving Kotavi of the fuel she needs for her non-transfinite ends. He sees her as a vampire. She had been draining and diverting my energy for her own ends. The white gull, Kotavi's inner image, trembles, reflecting her disappointment.
He realizes Kotavi sought Organ's energy via Roma and encompassed his destruction when he withheld it. Now she threatens the narrator.
Kotavi claims the secret of perfect sex control, and the narrator agrees to place himself in her hands for this ordeal, entering the shrine room when the moon is 15 days old. Lunar timing again.
The shrine rite is described in detail, terrifyingly specific. He is lashed to a post, the lingam. Virgin attendants dance, exuding fragrance onto leaves. Incense bearers rotate with reptilian oscillations. Drums and pipes play. Adorants rise, girdled with bells. A complex figure springs to life with contortions, twisting, weaving, glances, mime, and manual gestures. Figures on a platform writhe and mimic copulative gestures, brushing leaves on their lawns.
A gong sounds. Silence falls. Kotavi appears and drinks of the fountain of life that gushed from me. This ritual, this draining, is repeated to exhaustion. He feels walled up in the body, his astral window sealed, needing the relief her vampirism provides. He feels detachment, his body numb.
He is led to the idol, covered in iridescent scales. A bowl contains crushed leaves consecrated with vital balms. Kotavi eats the puree and bids him do likewise. This sacrament is succulent and sweet, filling him with tremendous vigor, reinforcing the earlier realization these physical processes and substances are literal facts of psychophysiology, a dark form of alchemy.
Kotavi has used occult means to seal his centers. The astral window, the throat, preventing expression or perhaps the word, and the heart, making Helga's image recede. This is a deliberate manipulation and redirection of his internal energies, forcing the thread of light down his spine to the phallic fire.
In the turbulence of this implosion, Urvashi, maddened with jealousy, attacks with a flaming brand. The girls scream and a cacophony rises, disintegrating reason.
The narrator's last words recorded are chilling. A final command in the face of chaos. Get up and dance. Dance, damn you! Dance, doll, dance!
The epilogue to this section states the sole object surviving the fire Urvashi caused is a lump of metal twisted into grotesque pre-evil creature shapes. This echoes the earlier description of the Qliphoth and suggests the forces invoked or unleashed in this ritual manifested physically in the resulting destruction.
So both narratives, Vilma's diary and the dance doll dance account, explore remarkably similar themes of regression, energetic vampirism, bizarre entities, dangerous rituals, and human manipulation, ultimately ending in horror and destruction. It's quite a parallel.
They really complement each other, painting a broader picture of this dark worldview.
We've taken a deep dive into some incredibly dark and strange source material today.
Wow.
From Vilma's unsettling descent into energetic vampirism in the Qliphoth realms, to R's tragic entanglement with a manipulative YL, and then this bizarre, violent occult narrative involving Roma, Kotavi, and the disturbing shrine rites.
We've pulled out some core, surprising insights. The concept of vampirism as a parasitic, energetic state, detached from normal life. The nature of the Qliphoth and the deep ones as regressive forces feeding on unbalanced minds. The chilling reality that these forces can be consciously directed by malevolent human actors for revenge.
Yeah, that human element is particularly grim.
The intertwining of sex, occult ritual, and artistic creation in the pursuit of dark power. And the pervasive sense of being caught in a terrifying regressive reality that underlies the physical world.
We've extracted these nuggets from these dense, unsettling sources to provide you with, hopefully, a shortcut to being well-informed on this very specific, unusual material. Hopefully you found some aha moments along the way and weren't completely overwhelmed by the sheer strangeness of the information.
It's a lot to take in. This deep dive has certainly revealed multiple layers of a strange, disturbing world hidden within these pages. It leaves us with many questions about the nature of reality, consciousness, and the forces that might operate beyond our ordinary understanding. Forces that can be unleashed by spiritual seeking, human manipulation, or perhaps simply by existing in certain resonant locations or states of being.
So let's leave you with this to think about. If, As these accounts suggest, there are parts of the human consciousness or the external world that resonate with ancient atavistic energies or entities, the Qliphoth, the deep ones. What does that mean for the paths of personal growth, spiritual aspiration, or even artistic creativity? Are the greatest dangers purely external, lurking in the jungle of the Qliphoth, or do they lie within parts of our own starved nature, waiting to be awakened by the wrong kind of experiment or pursuit?